Prince Rogers Nelson, who was a musician, businessman, and active father. May all of you appreciate and love those around you who are still alive. You can call into 216-578-1490, www.newstalkcleveland.com. Art McCoy's University of Common Sense.
Multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, actor, producer, film director. 1976 he started his career until this year, 2016. Worked with such artists as Wendy and Lisa, New Power Generation, The Revolution, The Time, Morris Day, Sheila E., Apollonia 6, Maserati, The Family, 94 East, Madhouse, Third Eye Girl, and many others. Eclectic work, flamboyant stage presence, hip-hop, disco, rock, soul, funk, jazz, pop. As a matter of fact, he released 15 albums between 2000 and 2015. As a matter of fact, he had several albums beforehand, like 5 such albums from 2000 to 2002, as he went to get out of a contract, a long-standing contract with Warner Brothers, and was known in the beginning of his career for LPs such as Prince, Dirty Mind, Controversy, 1999, Purple Rain, Around the World in a Day, and Parade, Sign of the Times. A lot of people don't realize that that brother was the one who also did a song called Baltimore for Freddie Gray and worked with the Black Lives Movement. A very powerful artist indeed.
We got one of the most important subjects that you'll want to talk about today. Got some of the most important people in the studio led by Vicky Trottle that you want to hear. So you want to stay tuned. It might save your life, or might save your home, or might save your business. Oh, that's what that sound reminds me of. I can see the people now in our neighborhoods. I can see the people now in our city losing their homes, getting put out of their property, predatory lending, banks are taking everything they got. Oh my goodness! That is why today on this program, I brought in experts in that field, because I'm tired of people losing their darn homes. I'm tired of people losing their business. I'm tired of these predatory lenders and these banks taking advantage of our community. All communities, but today we're talking particularly about our community. In the studio with me right now.
Anyone that drives through the inner city drives through East Cleveland knows that for a lot of us, the foreclosure issue is not dead. So this is like our second show here. You've allowed us to do another show, but we did a show a couple of years ago around the foreclosure issue. And we're back here today to give you an update on foreclosures in Cuyahoga County 2016. And what we are a grassroots organization that is committed to the empowerment of residents around the foreclosure issue. One of the things I want to do is just give a couple of stats on where we're at with these foreclosures. Ohio is still number 8 in terms of foreclosures. In Ohio, 1 out of 886 households will receive a foreclosure filing. We have come down from a high of almost 80,000 foreclosures in 2012, but we're still too high. They're still foreclosing on grandma, grandpa, auntie. They're still doing it, and it's not right. Because what happens when you foreclose on these households, you reduce the quality of living. 54% of all the subprime lending was against African Americans. We have an 800% higher infant mortality rate as of now than we had 10 years ago. We have a 14% less life expectancy for community. Art. 14% life expectancy lower because of foreclosures. Unbelievable. They want to spend $75 million demolishing these vacant and blighted structures. They've already received from one bank Chase. $13 billion. This is one bank, right?
Right.
I see your eyes
Wow.
getting big. And settlements from JP Morgan Chase. That's just one bank. But it has not trickled down to the residents. We still are facing hardships. We're still being put out of our homes. We're still receiving modifications that don't work. 68% of all low to moderate borrowers who received a modification will default. I can't make this up. Go do your research. This is what's going on. So, what can we do? Well, first, we got to get our heads out of the sand. I could go on and on about these stats, but what I'm really here to reveal, for us to kind of discuss, for us to plan some kind of a method of attack, is to first tell us what's going on, what we can do about it, and where the hope is. So the first thing we're going to do is get you to get your head out of the sand. If you've been received a foreclosure filing, what should you do? You know, should you go run and hire an attorney? That might work, but 9 times out of 10, I'm sorry, Judge, that's just not working. If we had Judge Capers, we wouldn't have any problems, but we don't have enough Judge Capers. But we do have Gail's, and Gail's here to tell you what you should do if you have received a filing. Gail has, well, let me just say a little bit about Gail. Gail is out here saving lives. She's helping people. You know, the fear will paralyze you. I know that firsthand. The fear will keep you from going forward. And one of the things that Gail is here to do is to help you navigate the process. She's not an attorney, but what she's doing is giving you the education so that you have information, because information is powerful. So
Pass on some information to help people who may have received a summons and complaint for foreclosure. When I got mine, which was back in 2008, I was literally paralyzed. And what's so devastating about that is that I'm a trained housing counselor, you know, and I work for a housing counseling agency. But I didn't know how to navigate the judicial system. And so basically I did nothing. And I'm not here to talk about my story. I'm here to tell you what you must do if you have a summons and complaint somewhere in your house and you're paralyzed. Again, I am not an attorney. I'm here today to talk to you about how to respond to a summons and complaint. But first, let me explain that there are 2 types of foreclosure. There's judicial foreclosure and there's non-judicial. Ohio is a judicial foreclosure state, which basically means that there are legal steps that the plaintiff must take in order to foreclose on your home. And this gives us more time. So a foreclosure may take anywhere from 9 months to 18 months, okay? My foreclosure started in 2008. The lender didn't get the default until 2013 because I challenged everything. Okay, I got knocked around a lot by the judicial system, but that was okay. Those were lessons learned. In some states, you have the non-judicial process, like in Georgia or Michigan, and which I recommend that you do respond, because one of my issues was that I did not respond. Okay, and so I had to deal with it from the default end. It was like climbing uphill. I did a lot of things wrong, but I learned how to do things right. Now, what a summons is, I'm going to make this real clear because you're going to understand this. A summons is basically an invitation to court. That's all it is. It's an invitation to court. And attached to that summons is the complaint. And the complaint, usually filed by the attorney for the lender or the trustee, lists the allegations or the reasons why they're filing the foreclosure complaint and to that complaint. And unfortunately, your silence is your response.
Okay.
So what should I do? Should I go get an attorney? Should I try to do it myself? What should I do?
Well, you need to Google some things on the internet, and you need to look at some YouTube videos, and then you have 28 days. It goes really fast. You need to look at some examples of, or even I prepared a handout that people can request, I guess, after the program, and it's just a very simple format, and I give you some reasons that you might want to use in your answer. There's no cookie cutter response to any complaint, because you have to answer each and every allegation, each and every one. All right. The proof for those allegations is on the plaintiff. Now, the plaintiff is the one that's suing you, and in this case, the homeowner is the defendant. All right. And unfortunately, if you go into court with or without an attorney, if you go in thinking of yourself as a defendant, you're already defeated. Okay. So there are some things that you can do in regards to that. In my head, you are the alleged defendant because nothing has been proven. And no matter how painful it is, it's important to read the complaint. Okay?
Read
it.
Or if
and
you
know
know
what
to you and explain it to you.
Yes.
Because a lot of the people that are being foreclosed on, unfortunately, Gail, are elderly people.
Yeah.
So they, they're looking at this stuff, and it, even for some of the most sophisticated of us, it's still gobbledygook.
Yes,
Right.
yes. But the reason why you need to read it is so that you know what's there. You may not understand it, but you can get some. It's plain English. You can get some understanding.
Or maybe a relative or a family friend, somebody to help you go through this complaint.
Yeah,
so
but
you
the thing
understand
is,
what's going on.
It is painful.
Yes,
It's an emotional pain because you're thinking possibly you could lose your house.
Oh yeah, you about to get put out.
Okay.
That is no joke, because these mortgage companies and banks are not playing with us. They might not even want the property. As we go through our neighborhood, I'm just sorry to interrupt, but as you go through our neighborhood and you see abandoned property after abandoned property, you know that most of this stuff they don't want. They just don't want you to have.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Most people don't even know who's suing them.
Right.
It's like I
Or
didn't
if
make my
the proper
payment.
party
I
is suing
didn't make my payments there.
Right.
Or there's like a long list of attorney in fact, or it's name of a trust that you never heard of, or you find out later on that your note and mortgage has been sold or assigned to a trust. So the complaint states why the lender or the trustee is attempting to take your house, usually because you didn't make any payments. But this is the thing. That's all right it's not all right, but since you didn't make any payments, know this, that only whoever is holding that note can declare a default. So if the servicer is coming after you, then it's like, where is his authority? Where's the servicer's authority to come after you? D is attempting to foreclose on you. And as I said before, only the holder of the note, whoever owns your note, can declare a default, not the servicer. So if the servicer is coming at you for foreclosure, you need to ask for their authorization. What is their authorization to initiate the foreclosure? And that's the law of agency, okay? Because there are conditions, there are stipulations set out by the Department of Housing and Urban Development that lender must do and be in compliance in before they can initiate a foreclosure. But they do it all the time. Why? Because they know that homeowners are not going to show up in court. All they have to do is file the complaint, no answer in 28 days, put in the request for a default judgment on the 29th day, get a hearing for the default judgment. You don't show up for the default judgment, and if you don't, your house is gone. Okay. What I did was I showed up for the default judgment because I had waited and there was no more time. So I went, but I was prepared with an answer. And so the magistrate allowed me to file the answer, and then the fight was on. That was from 2008 to I'm still in the fight, even though in 2015 they forcefully evicted me from my home.
Fear. What was your fear that when you got the initial summons or complaint that you didn't answer?
It's like, who are these people? And I felt like I would never be able to make the payment that they were requesting, because my payment literally went from $1,500 to like $2,700.
Wow.
And I could not make that payment, and I couldn't really understand why. And so that's when I went to the default hearing, my mind was made up. And this is a story. I was in bed crying. I'm a housing counselor. I understand foreclosure, don't understand the judicial system, but I'm like, wait a minute, there's something really wrong here, because it's not like I'm refusing. It's not like I don't want to pay. I'm not capable of paying for a lot of reasons. They did forced place insurance. I couldn't even calculate the interest rate adjustments.
So it was the fear of the unknown, but once you started conquering that fear, you figured out that you could battle, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
They created a tiger.
2008, I'm still in. I'm out of my house, but I'm still in it. But they didn't put me out until last year, 2015.
1 out of every 200 homes will be foreclosed upon. 1 child in every classroom is at risk of losing their home.
Lord have mercy.
6 and 10 homeowners say they wish they understood the terms and details of their mortgages better. 52% of us live paycheck to paycheck. 46% of African American households have less than $5,000 in liquid assets to support themselves. It's a crisis. That's what we're losing. $34,000 per household we're losing because in lost revenues to services, city services like the water department, like the tax department. So we all lose on this issue when people get put out of their homes.
All right.
This is what I want to say. It's very, very important. And that is, just as the lender is suing you, you need to put in a counterclaim. I'm not here to talk about that, but the counterclaim is very important because, remember, the plaintiff has made allegations in the complaint against you on why they want to foreclose on your house. The burden of proof is on them. Okay, do a counterclaim. Now in Cuyahoga County, it costs $75 to file a counterclaim. All right, it's worth it because now that plaintiff has to respond to you. Okay. Okay, you need to know what your law is. You need to know how to make your law, and you need to understand their law. Okay, and negotiable instruments, secured transactions. You need to know that. I study this. I read it. It's a lot of rhetoric that you have to wade through. I'm like, our ancestors have an answer. We need to tap into another source of energy. Okay.
And you're worried about foreclosure now, in the future, or in the past. So right now, without any further interruptions, we're going to go back to Vicki Trotter and her staff.
Marvin and Dave are a power couple. They inspire me because they won't give up. It's like, when are you going to quit, Marvin and Dave, until this justice, or should I say justice, has been served?
Achieved.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, Dave, I want you to tell us.
Dave, are you talking into a mic or are you talking to her? Which one? This is radio. This
Well,
ain't TV. I know you're handsome and all, but talk right into that microphone so she can hear you. You can talk right into it. There you go. Now answer the question. Go ahead.
All right.
I want you to tell us a little bit about who you are and why
Brother
issue
Satter,
is
Brother Satter, you handsome as you thought you was on TV, didn't you?
No,
But you are on TV
I was just waiting for
we're
the cue.
streaming live, but you weren't talking into the mic. Go ahead,
was
brother.
just waiting for the cue, man.
Just messing with you.
That's
brother.
all right. I'm used to it, all right?
Why is this issue important to you and your wife, Marva?
Well, this issue isn't just important to Marva and I. It's important to the entire city of Cleveland, all of Cuyahoga County. It's important to the nation because what we're dealing with here is fraudulent foreclosures that are being pushed onto African American communities, and not just us, of course. There are all races are dealing with this. It's a staple in society that if there's an ill that is being perpetrated on the American citizen, is being perpetrated worse on the black community. And so it's our job to not only fight for our situation and the foreclosure that was perpetrated upon us fraudulently, but we need to fight for other people, especially in the city of Cleveland and in the county of Cuyahoga, who don't have a voice. There are a lot of people that would like to fight, but they don't really have the tools to fight. And so it's our job to not only fight for them, but to try to equip them to fight, because the idea is each one teach one and each one reach one. We have to do what we can do to teach so that they can teach, and so on and so on. And if we don't do this, then gentrification is going to continue to run rampant in our society.
Kind of powered through this, but
Yeah.
can you give us a little information about what happened to you and what you did about it?
Well, we were foreclosed on in December of 2012, and the City Mortgage versus Patterson decision was actually rendered by the 8th District Court of Appeals, as I say, in December of 2012. And it's become toxic case law, not only for homeowners in Cuyahoga County, but it's getting to the point where it's getting to be a problem for a growing number of homeowners in other areas of the state of Ohio. And what actually happened was we won at the trial court level. We won our case.
And what was the ruling?
The ruling was pertinent to and predicated upon Wells Fargo versus Jordan, which was case law precedent at that time. And the reason why it was dismissed at the court of the common pleas level was because City Mortgage did not own our mortgage at the time that they filed. Now, we're going to get into some things where we discussed they didn't even own the note, but we won't, for the purposes of what we're discussing at the moment. It was tossed out because they didn't own the mortgage at the time of filing, because that was the case law precedent at that time.
Well, Dave, excuse me, if they didn't own it, then how could they proceed?
Well, this is where it gets curious. It was dismissed at the common pleas level. City Mortgage then shelved their law team and brought in a new law team. And that law team approached the Court of Appeals and said, this is what we're going to ask you to do. Do not rule on Patterson until the Ohio Supreme Court brings down its ruling in Federal Home Loan versus Schwartzwald, which was a much anticipated ruling at that time. And the Court of Appeals said, fine, we'll wait. Now, when the ruling came down from Schwartzwald, it actually read that Federal Home Loan owned neither the note or the mortgage in the Schwartzwald case, and therefore had no standing.
Well, let me be clear. The law says you have to have both, right?
Well, that has been the law
That's
of the
federal
land.
law.
That's federal law,
that's
and it's been the law here
And
for everything prior to City Mortgage versus
Okay.
Patterson. They used Patterson to change the law.
they
So
changed the law in what county?
they changed the law primarily in Cuyahoga County. But now we're starting to see, as we're researching more cases, they're starting to spread this poison into other counties. And so, and Frank D. Celebrezze has a lot to do with that, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So at the appellate court level, they ruled that we're going to overturn your victory in the trial court, give it to City Mortgage, and we're going to do it on the basis of this. Since the Ohio Supreme Court said that Federal Home Loan owned neither the note or the mortgage, we're going to say our assessment of that decision is, well, if Federal Home Loan had owned either the note or the mortgage, they would have had standing to foreclose. That's a ridiculous assessment. And everybody that's not a banker or a lawyer for a banker knows that's ridiculous.
And what
But-
the mortgage companies jumped up and down, didn't
They had a party that night.
Hallelujah.
They had a party that night.
We're about-
They absolutely
Okay.
did.
Yes, they
so,
did.
So after we wanted the trial case, of course, the 8th District overturned it in favor of city mortgage. Now, the Ohio Supreme Court ruled that Federal Home Loan didn't own Schwartzwald's note or mortgage. So our question was, how then can the Ohio 8th District Court of Appeals say, we're going to assess that if they owned neither, if they had owned either, they would have had standing? That's ridiculous, but that's what they did.
They extrapolated
They
that from that
absolutely
ruling,
did. And
that either one
They
is good
ran
enough.
with it. Now, here's another thing that needs to be considered with respect to this ruling. The same day Patterson was journalized by the 8th District, there was another case almost identical. It's called David versus Sensenbrenner. And in that ruling, in paragraph 14, the court, the 8th District Court, admitted what David said was true, which was you must have the mortgage. The plaintiff must own the mortgage to have standing. That's what they said in that decision. Our case, journalized the same day, and say you don't need the mortgage.
So you got
So
this
which is it?
contradiction.
So you have this
in law.
contradiction. Right, exactly.
Is that good, Judge? A contradiction in law? How does that work?
So since I'm not familiar with any of the facts,
Right.
I can't give a decision
I understand.
based on the law.
Housing Court Judge Raymond Pianca helped facilitate the sale of our home for $1 to Mansfield Frazier by helping him navigate the clerk's office. And that's the truth. And
So quickly, I'm against the time. I remember being out there that day, and your son was graduating, and,
Right.
and he had to get put out the home right before he graduated.
Right.
That hurt you, didn't it? I
Oh.
only got a second.
yeah, that hurt me very badly because we wanted to make sure that our son graduated in the home that he'd lived in his entire life, and that wasn't a possibility, but the fight continues until the very end. And one of the things that we're trying to do is to make sure that people understand, as Gail was talking about, don't ignore these summonses when you get them. Please don't do that, because we have to fight this thing as a collective. And the more people that are knowledgeable about what we're dealing with, and the fact that we are being foreclosed on at a ridiculous rate, and in Cuyahoga County, we have to absorb this bad case law, and all they're doing is continuing to perpetuate this poison in other counties. And also what they're doing, and I need to mention this before I forget, they've changed the parameters when it comes to mortgage assignments. And what they've done is they've come up with this thing called an equitable assignment. And let me read to you what that is and what the courts are doing to people. This is to also buffer the situation for the banks so they don't need to come to court with a valid mortgage assignment at the time of filing. This is what it says. An equitable assignment is a result that falls short of meeting the requirements of a legal assignment. That means it's unlawful. Yet, in the interest of fairness and justice, and you can insert the banks there, this will be enforced by the courts and documented as valid. Do you see what's going on here? The courts are coming up with their own rules.
This money. How do you feel about these multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar banks being bailed out, and a poor family like yours can't be bailed out? Well, how do you feel about that?
I feel awful about it. I mean, and I not only feel awful for us, I feel awful for all the homeowners. I mean, I've seen the horror stories. As a matter of fact, in the brief that I wrote that I sent to the FDIC and the Office of the Comptroller, I talked about these two guys who basically committed suicide while the sheriffs were outside getting ready to put them out of their home after, a foreclosure eviction. These are the kind of things that are going on in this country, but these are the things that are no longer talked about. As a matter of fact, fraudulent foreclosure has almost fallen completely out of the public discourse. That's a shame because it continues to happen. The banks are continuing to get covered over and over again. I think when Paulson presented his little 3-page letter in the Bush administration and yanked $770 billion of our tax dollars out of the coffers and gave it to the banks, and all of these people kept losing their houses because they were $2,000 behind in their mortgage or $5,000. What is that to $770 billion? They should have given the money to the people. I say they're too big to fail. They should have let them fail.
Advocating is that they do a three-tier approach. A moratorium on foreclosures. Elections matter. We get more involved in the electorate. Who we elect in the common pleas court, who we elect to council. We need more education because knowledge is power. And we want the Department of Justice to step in and investigate some of these cases because we are still in a crisis. We really are. And Dave, do you have anything to add? I want you to give them some information of how they can reach out to us. But do you have anything to add, you or Marva, about some of the solutions?
Well, one of the things is we have to do something that we haven't been very good at doing. We need to draw the lines of demarcation between the personal like for a public official and whether or not they're doing their job. We can't fuse those things together. As a former union president, I had to learn to do that. You have to be able to separate your personal feelings from the job itself. And the job is taking care of the people. If you can't take care of the people the way you should, then we can sit down and have a coffee and be friends, but you need to leave office. And as it relates to being able to contact us, we want to hear what people have to say, and we want to hear your stories, and we want to help where we can. And this is how you can reach us. Area code 216-673-3205. I'll repeat that. Area code 216-673-3205. You can also reach us by email at cafecleveland4us@gmail.com. That's cafecleveland4us@gmail.com.
And what I want to say is ownership is everything. Ownership matters. They have found out that when you're a homeowner, you have a better mental, physical, and emotional health. Your children perform better academically and on school tests, and you're more politically active. So that we need to make sure that we keep people in their homes. We keep stable. We need to stabilize our neighborhood.
Absolutely.
But
Listen,
I want to thank you though.
listen.